My name is Dr. Althea Bates. I am originally from Jamaica, but we settled here in Hartford, Connecticut. So my earliest memories of the library are them being a safe place, secure space, and a safe haven for me in elementary school when I first came here from Jamaica. And of course, it was the Albany Avenue branch that I was accustomed to because I went to Martin Luther King Elementary School. And my mom had 2 jobs, so I was always hanging out in the library. It was the space I went to after school. I wish I knew the librarian's name so I can go back and tell him thank you, because he basically was the one that took care of me right after school. And it became my space as a latchkey kid. Some people went home. I went to the library, got my homework done. I would participate in all the library activities, the arts and crafts. And of course, sometimes I would even stay with the librarians after they locked up because my mom would be a couple minutes behind as a single mom. And they took care of me. Sometimes they would feed me until my mom got there. So I have a lot of warm memories of the staff, especially at the Albany Avenue branch. I had a great librarian. I think for him, I used to get bullied a lot. Coming from Jamaica, it wasn't cool then to be Jamaican. It is now. But I used to have girls that wanted to fight me after school. And the library was maybe like less than a mile walk from Martin Luther King. So I actually would run to the library after school because the librarian was my safe haven. Like, he would make sure that the girls wouldn't come in here and fight me. He would actually tell me to go hide in his office. It was always really him trying to make me feel safe, secure, and seen. And he always invested in me. He was always giving me books to read. He said, "You're really smart. You got to go above and beyond what they tell you to do in school." So he would always suggest books and be like, "Okay, sign this book out and you're going to do a book report for me and tell me what you learned about this book." So he would push me beyond even my capacity. And I think that's also another quality in a good librarian.
Where would you be today if it weren't for the library?
I really don't know, because growing up from one country as an immigrant to this country and trying to navigate through, learn the services, assimilate, understand the culture, the differences, the nuances, I don't know where I would be without the library. I don't know where my mom would be as a single mom and where she would house me to keep me in a safe space where she knew that an adult had a watchful eye on me and that I would get my homework done. It was just a hub for individuals that didn't really have our parents readily available after school. It was a hub for kids that didn't want to be in the streets. So all of us that were there became family almost, because we would do our homework together. We would do activities in the library together. So it became like a second family for me. And the librarians became like surrogate aunts and uncles. With their guidance, I think they were probably one of my first set of mentors. I would call them my sheroes and heroes. And I don't know where I would be without their investment in me. There was so much I didn't know as an immigrant coming here, but I kept asking questions. And they honored and gave me a space to be inquisitive. They nurtured that. So the advice I would give a young person is to ask questions, stay inquisitive, really get to know the individuals, the adults that work in the library. I gained so much advice, not only from the librarians, but from the security guard, like just encouragement. Stay on the right track, young lady. You're a smart girl. You can be successful. All this little bit of encouragement that you pick up along the way as you go and you connect with all these adults. And I would just sit with them and just ask questions, curiosity. I think one thing that my mom taught me that I would definitely share with maybe a parent now is connect with the adults that have resources. And that was always her fundamental thing, because as an immigrant, we had to learn all these systems, and she didn't have all the information to help me navigate these systems. But what she would do is connect me to individuals who had the resources that we could get the answers from. And so as I became a parent, I followed in suit. So my kids got connected to the library early on, at least from their first year of life. I connected them to story time on a Saturday morning. My mom used to bring my son every Thursday after school to rent videos and talk to the librarians and also just participate in any activities that they were having in the children's section. Then I would bring my children on a Saturday. And I did that both with my son and my daughter. And so the library became innate as a part of their experience growing up. They knew that Saturdays, that's what we did. We went, we discovered books, and then we also listened to story time and learn stories from different cultures and different places with all these different individuals coming in to share their stories. So I believe that even my children wouldn't be who they are without the fundamental years of having the library. My son was able to connect, to explore, to meet other kids outside of his school. He went to school in Correct Choice, so it was also an opportunity for him to meet kids in Hartford because he'd never been to any of the Hartford schools. That was also intentional, me bringing him to activities here so he could meet his community. Even though he didn't go to school here, I wanted him to still have connection to community. So that's also part of what the library meant for our family, is connection to community. And the same thing with my daughter. She's now in 8th grade, but she's never been to Hartford schools. But I used to bring her when she was younger because I needed to have her fundamental years connecting to community as well. And it's so funny because the librarians invested in my kids so much where it became something where we actually took adventures and we were able to use library passes. And my daughter and myself were able to go to museums and aquariums and to zoos, all with resources from the library passes. I was able to have adventures with my kids that we didn't have to pay for because we utilized the library passes. That's another thing that parents can do is create quality moments and opportunities and memories with your kids using the resources connected to the library. I'm going to give my specific example in terms of suggestions for the library. So my daughter is an entrepreneur. She grew up connected to the librarians. They know her by name because she came in so often. Through the development of the relationships, when she started her youth business, she got an invitation extended to her to bring her youth business multiple times to do it with kids in the library. So I believe that if there were more opportunities to maybe showcase the talents and abilities of our kids to other kids, that's something that would be beneficial. One, it builds confidence. It actually gives opportunities for kids to showcase their talents and abilities. It also gives kids the creativity and the innovation to say, oh, well, if this kid did it, then I could do it too. For my daughter to be able to create a workshop, because she used to teach kids how to take care of their hair through doing doll spa parties. And the whole idea was to teach girls from a young age how to really take care of their hair so they would be more responsible with it. And it was all about love of hair of all hair types, bringing a little bit of diversity and inclusion and equity into it too. So no matter what texture your hair is, you got to love on it. Pre-Hartford, I didn't have access to a free library. So I think the difference between my experience growing up in Jamaica and then the experience of maybe somebody culturally here having accessibility to things is that we pay for a lot of things. We pay for our education. We pay for books. There isn't that much that's free. And so to know that, oh, more people aren't taking advantage of this and you can come in here, you can rent books and they let you rent DVDs for free, this is a space to be. I believe that maybe some of the reasons why people don't take advantage is because it's so accessible. It is a double-edged sword. It's like, it's there. It'll be there. I think the best piece of advice I've ever got was come out your shell. You got a lot to offer. But it wasn't until I heard this quote that it totally changed everything. The quote is, well-behaved women rarely make history. It's from a book by Laurel Thatcher Ulrich, but the quote has really been an anchoring point to the women's history movement. That's where it's well associated with. So you're called to be a disruptor. You have something to say it. You have a voice that needs to be heard, use it. And I had adults telling me that all along, dropping mustard seeds, saying, you got to come out your shell. You got a lot. You got so much to offer the world. You got so much you need to share. You're so intelligent. You're so articulate. But more people need to know that because you need to speak up more. I think that's probably the best piece of advice I've ever heard is that you need to be a disruptor. When you're well-behaved, you don't get seen. You don't get heard. You got to disrupt things. The advice I would give a young person that wants to go on a career trajectory of being a doctor, a lawyer, or maybe somebody in a professional field is keep asking questions, keep pursuing, keep with tenacity exploring. I think one of the things that I learned along the way, shout out to Tom Smith from Weaver High School, who I had an honors critical thinking course with. And that course changed the trajectory of my life because what it did is it allowed me to problem solve and critically think and make decisions. And it taught me the Socratic method to question the questioner, continue to question throughout your life. The way you learn and the way you understand things is to question things. And so what it did is reframe how I parent. My children did not grow up with me answering questions. I kept asking questions so they could fundamentally answer their own questions. That translated to them now questioning everything and asking questions to learn. I found that it's a double-edged sword where Sometimes people get intimidated when you ask questions. And that's happened to my kids in school. They're always asking questions. And I wish they would kind of just fall in line. Again, back to my favorite quote, we're not built to fall in line. We're not built to settle. We're not built to go along. We're built to disrupt the status quo. Structures that have always operated a certain way need to be challenged. And I think that's how you grow. That's how you learn. And that's how also the systems and institutions learn how to deal with you. I have so many memories of the library itself. My first summer youth employment job was working for my mom, who ran childcare centers for CRT. And the Barber Street Childcare Center for CRT was where? In the Barber Street parking lot with the Barber Street Library. And where do we take the kids every single day? The library. So not only did it spark my own imagination and creativity, but I got to witness, working a summer youth employment job, kids lighting up, hearing story time and being introduced to books and going to listen to musicians and artistry. I got to witness it. I think what was fundamentally great was that, especially for children that didn't have all the generations here with them, like the grandmothers and the great-grandmothers, there were older librarians that became that for a lot of children. It made me just think, what happens to all those librarians that retire but still want to create impact? Is there a way to bring them back to not play that role that they played when they retired, but just for special activities so the children that don't have connections to maternal or paternal grandparents can still get some of that nurturing? All of the mentors and the individuals that came along to pour into me taught me that you're going to be okay even if you fail. That's where having folks like librarians or individuals that encourage you to come in, because it gives you the self-assurance that you can try things. And then their wisdom tells you that I have tried stuff, but some things worked, some things didn't. But this is what I learned. And then seeing their experiences and them sharing their stories made it for me okay to fail. Because I knew that more of the lessons were going to be in the failure story than were going to be in the success stories. More of the lessons that I needed, the grit, the endurance, the stamina, the resilience, all the character building aspects. I think about the programs like the American Place that the library has now that weren't in existence when I was growing up as an immigrant. That would have been very helpful. And I think about just other programs similar to that we probably can create to meet community needs or just to create connection to community needs. I think the library is such a community hub that it constantly has to be a central point for connection of grassroots organizations to people that need services, or larger organizations as well to people that need services. It's almost like the bus stop or the central hub for information. So it's got to be done in a coordinated way where the people who come here that need it get access to the things that they need. And also the people that maybe have grassroots services, because what I find a lot of times is only the larger organizations that are more coordinated might know to coordinate and connect with the library. But if you have a grassroots organization or community-based organization that's really the heart of what people need, a lot of times people don't know that they need to connect to the library to get the message out about what they do. So I think about those individuals, like, for instance, Jendaya, who, when she first was starting Angela Edgewood, and just kind of like grassroots nonprofits like that, how many of them don't know that this could be a main area to present, to host workshops, informational sessions, to recruit? The other thing I'm thinking about, especially for those kind of organization or hub spaces, is some people don't have the mechanisms, even though they have the heart and the mission and they are already doing the work, but they might not necessarily have the infrastructure or the fiduciary to do the work in a way that needs to be done. Could the library be connected to fiduciaries? And I think we need to acknowledge the people that are doing it at the grassroots level more. I've worked for tons of nonprofits. I'm not going to name them. But I feel like the more established ones are the ones that always get the resources and the connections done. I'm always thinking about those who do great work, but they don't necessarily have the infrastructures or the financial setups to get the backing, to bring the funding in, to expand on the amazing work that they're already doing. Or they don't have the resources to tell the story of all the amazing things they're doing to impact the lives that they're reaching. Could the library do that? provide exposure through media resources to tell their story. After building all of those library moments and memories, it's amazing to come back full circle to the library and now participate as an adult and be engaged in learning all over again at almost 50 years old, but still learning some new things to help grow me as an individual, but also to move my trajectory of building on what I already do with adding podcasting. So I'm really enjoying this podcast class. I'm enjoying learning and connecting with a community of podcasters. To be able to do it with other individuals, it's so beneficial because we're all learning at the same time, but we're all able to support each other and even give ideas around content development, as well as use all our creativity and innovation towards a unified goal of learning how to really be effective podcasters, to get our message out there, to really create impact in the world, and to have our voice be heard. So I think about somebody like myself, seasoned, worked in the nonprofit fields, working for myself, a writer, a motivational speaker. And my goal is to actually create my experiences that I've written in stories and bring those to film. We don't necessarily have the connections to the resources in Hollywood, but we definitely want to have our stories told too. We want to have a Netflix contract with a streaming service too. And we do have amazing stories to tell, but we might not necessarily have the resources or the connections to connect to the industry in Hollywood. So how does this space bridge the gap for that?
Thank you for listening to 250 Stories, a production of HPL Studios at Hartford Public Library. This episode was written and produced by Christopher T. Brown, sound by Sam Sigmund, edited by Faith Lucas, and with photography and graphic design support from Hartford Public Library's communications team and the Hartford History Center. For more information on this project, visit www.hplstudios.hplct.org. New episodes release every Tuesday, so subscribe to stay tuned.